Very good morning, everybody, and thank you, Praveenji. It's really happy to be here with like-minded professionals and spending a whole day, of course, through this platform, kind of churning and iterating our views and various subjects. Some of them were already covered or touched upon by Praveenji. I particularly like the pledge. I think it's a good thing to kind of reinforce. In the chemical industry, we all do it in safety, but like you are asking us to influence others, I think this industry has got the responsibility to influence the rest of the industries in the country to take the safety standards up. And but I'm very positive about that in terms of the pledge that you said. Just want to, before I start, want to share a very recent experience. I was visiting a family friend, and they have a granddaughter who's 3-4 years old. And while I was catching up, and she was playing with the dollhouse, which young girls have, the typical kitchen and everything. And she was engrossed in a play. And based on her grandmother's advice, she took me through this. She told, please tell them in Marathi. What I liked about that kitchen, the small kitchen which is there for the young girl who, the typical gas and vessels, and there were 2 dustbins, not even one. There were 2 dustbins, small buckets. And when I asked her what this is for, she actually told this is for the wet garbage and this is for the dry garbage. I was really touched upon that fact that this is what is really the grassroots level embedding of what we call values, which is done through, of course, that whoever must be the toy seller or the designing person. But if this is happening, then I think we should really be assured about the fact that when you talk about my 32 years experience, and all of us are, I'm sure, spent last 30 years or around that. But then I think the country is in good hands. There are things like this, which make us feel proud, or at least make us feel assured. With that, I'll just start over to what Prabhuji has asked me to speak about in terms of delivery excellence. I'll briefly cover in terms of the trends and where we stand today and my views on some of the things that are going on. Yep. So largely, it's very clear that growth is something which is definitely there in front of us. And at the same time, with growth comes the demand from not only what is faced by our country, within the country, also the demand and the imports that are going to come in from our neighbors. I think there's some problem with this. So with that brings the interface for supply chain that is there in terms of how do we deal with the exports and imports and all the process related to that. And that's something which is going to come in the way of delivery excellence, which I will talk about. The other, of course, the point of increasing customer expectations in terms of delivery excellence and how that is related to that. Why customer expectations and why delivery? Because both are related. Service levels is related to what the customer wants. While on one side we are all consumers, and when we go outside this room and when we are with our family and friends, we are all consumers. And the e-commerce industry is setting new standards for service level, with a small sweet being delivered within an hour, or the dark store, or the whole e-commerce. What does it mean for chemicals? And there is a cost, and the service balance as far as the service levels go. And so that part of it. On the other part, quickly taking you through to very clearly that there are a number of initiatives that are going through. At a larger level, we all know that if we aspire to be one of the leading economies in the world, in the top 3, in the top 4, then are we aligned, or is my supply chain aligned to that expectation? Are we really there in terms of supply chain, in terms of where I want to be, in terms of my larger rank in the economy? So clearly, the national logistics policy is there to deal with that. A lot of work has gone into that. We have a ranking, we know where we stand. That standing has a function of the logistics cost as a proportion to GDP. So it's a sum total or aggregation of all that we spend on logistics versus what we generate out of that. And clearly there are actions which are talked about. Pravinji touched upon that part. In the very first line is the integration of the three modes. And that is something which is key for us, which is coming out of this slide, is in terms of the modal share of what we operate on. As a country, we are largely dependent on road. I will touch upon that again later. Normally 60 to 70 or 70 to 80% is something which is transported by road, whereas the economies which do well also have a dependency on rail mode and sea as a mode, or sea as a coastal as a mode as well. This is not, yeah. The other part, of course, is the evolution. When we talk about delivery excellence, I wanted to touch upon that. We all know who has started in the 90s here. We started off with always as the two seesaw balance as far as the KPIs went, which is cost and service. And to give better service level, you had a cost impact. And for most organizations, this was a balance of cost versus service. For the chemical industry and the leading ones who were passionate about safety, and the third dimension came in, and that was the holy triangle which really talked about cost, service, and safety. And safety was non-negotiable. And that's even today for the best run organizations. And that's the way it should be. But for most supply chains with cost, service, and safety going on, I think the challenge for the future, of course, comes in terms of the very pledge that we took today, is in terms of the sustainability angle. And so we have to definitely go that I am going to meet my service levels, I am going to meet my excellence, but I cannot compromise on the sustainability aspect of my business. And that's a new dimension that is going to come. Having said that, people comes as another dimension. Training, competency, and developing our people for supply chain becomes a very, very important competency as well. So therefore, my belief is that this is migrating clearly from where we started off to Pentagon in terms of clearly adding sustainability and people as well. I talked about road here. In terms of, I will not go through the challenges which are very clearly known. The top 2-3 areas in terms of road challenges and which is going to come in the way of excellence is clearly that while on one hand there's a lot of infra challenges and infra projects going on in the country right now, the softer aspect which I really think, which is linked to safety, is the point of driver, and what are we doing about the whole element of driver as an element and a journey to both safety as well as somebody to factor our goods around. Especially for the chemical industry though, 2 areas for all of us to work is to ensure and keep working on standards and KPIs as far as road goes, as far as trucking goes, as far as movement of goods goes. And I mentioned this both for solids and liquids. We have made some headway, but I think there are gaps there. If we all have to pursue, and with respect to our aspirations of where we wish the country to be, where we wish excellence to be, I think this is something which is clearly coming as an area. And other area in terms of road, which is linked, is how we collectively work on emergency response in case there is incident. I think as a country, which is keeping us away from excellence is to reach our goods, reach our the incident site, and how we collectively handle it. I think that's something which is an area for us to kind of go up. Rail. is the next area. Clearly, as a part of the NLP, the nation aspires to be at 45% of rail share. We are currently less than 20. Most companies, I'm sure, would be less than 4-5% of their share in the rail transport. So I think we should acknowledge the fact that our understanding of rail transportation as a work stream, the operational part of rail, the safety part of rail, the commercial part of rail, is something we don't know as much as we understand the transport of the road commercials, because this is something which is developed over a period of years. Not that there is no talent in the country. The Indian Railway or the IITS people who run the Indian Railways, which have one of the best networks in the country, are of course very, very in-depth, knowledgeable in this field. But I think if you have to use that share, then we need to be aware of what rail logistics and rail transportation is all about. And if we definitely cheaper, so therefore key areas there is a need for collaboration to work on the wagon design so that chemical goods on pallets can be handled in and out of the railway wagons. The related infrastructure is obviously being made. The connectivity part and the technology part, I will not really go into. That's something which is there. But for us as an industry, this is something which is a clear area to take forward, which will help us bring down the cost as well as take the rail journey forward. Shipping waterways, we deal, why I mentioned as shipping, because there's a large dependence on imports. We depend on goods coming out from all parts of the country or all parts of the world as well. We know over the past 2.5 years that we have been going through geopolitical challenges which has been impacting cost, whether it is the Red Sea, whether it is the Panama Canal, whether it is the the recent Houthi attacks, which is impacting the shipping. There is some issue with this slides which is moving ahead, but then I would request you to stay where I am in terms of my dialogue. So the shipping part, of course, is another area. However, within the country, the coastal line is really up for development. There are partners who provide coastal movements. I would encourage every one of you, and we should work together, collaborate to kind of make up the loads or work towards, we as an organization do coastal cargo. And I must say that while it's a change, but I think it's a welcome change, both in terms of cost, both in terms of a safe way to dispatch, and the infrastructure is just getting better and better. So I think we should, this is something which is there for all of us to work on, because that will work towards both excellence as well as the cost in the long run. The last part quickly I'll touch upon is the warehousing part. In the warehousing, where we struggle right now is that the end-to-end transportation of palletized cargo is not yet there. We are, as an organization and as a country, we will face labor shortages in the future in terms of required, and in terms of handling the kind of volumes that one is talking about as a country, the congestions, the integration, what Praveenji talked about between, and the delays which are currently happening between the transfer from road to rail or rail to ship, or for that matter, even the multimodal logistics parks which are being created today. I think the key would be to have cargo which can be handled easily. And therefore, the warehouses need to be designed, and we need to be kind of ready for using such warehouses and moving away from our traditional ways, not because it's the right thing to do, not because it is something which is available. So that's like a thing which we will have to work upon. I think that becomes a very important area as far as warehousing is concerned. The rest, I'm sure a lot of work has been done here in terms of the regulatory part or the racking and other areas. Of course, that is primarily led by the e-com industry, but there is something which we can definitely work. So I am not touching on the technology part here. I'm just quickly want to summarize my quick 8-10 minutes given to me. we need to work on these basic areas that I talked about. Thank you very much.